A football club isn't just a collection of 11 people on a football pitch with a manager telling them what to do. It is a big historic unit that arguably has a big culture and history built up around it. And I find that a really important thing and something that's notable when you compare from one club to another club. In this video, I'm going to look at two different cities and the cultures of the clubs in both of those cities, compare them, and see which isn't necessarily better, but the benefits of having a big culture behind your side. Sorry, I had to cut there. I've got a little bit of a cold, but anyway. So I'm going to start with what is a club culture, and a club culture is sort of the history, the stories that are told from generation to generation of fans, and basically sort of the personality that a club manages to take on. Something that lasts from generation to generation and is fairly consistent, and something that sort of signifies the club and what it means to the people that support it. And I think it's important to have a big link between the club and the city that the club is within, because ultimately that city are the people that support the club. A city isn't just, as a club isn't a bunch of players, a city isn't just a bunch of buildings. It's the people in it, it's the culture that's built up around it, all that jazz. And it also means you need to have some emotional investment in the side. That isn't just, do we win, lose, or draw? How do we feel about that? It's about the health of a club, the financial situation that a club is in, its employment choices, absolutely everything. And furthermore, it's about supporting the institution, not the employees. As I've been separating players from club quite deliberately, it's for this point, the point that you're not just supporting, say, if Liverpool is your example, you're not just supporting Mo Salah, Darwin Nunez, because if they move somewhere else in the world, you're not going to keep supporting them. You're supporting the institution and what it stands for. Now, the first city that I'm going to sort of take you on the adventure of is the one with a pretty good culture around the club. It's a one club city, Leeds United. Now, in terms of connections with history, these can be seen in absolute spades. Even recent history, when Leeds United were down in League One and had Luciano Becchio and Jermaine Beckford, that's something that we stay stuck with. That's something that the club still sings about. We still sing about stuff like the Reeve era and stuff like that. And you can especially see that it's the case when Jermaine Beckford and Luciano Becchio visited Thorpe Arch this week, and Jorginho Rutter gave Becchio a massive hug. It's the idea that the players are also invested in the culture as well as the fans, and that culture involves the past as well as the present. And furthermore, you see it spreading through the city of Leeds as well. Sorry, again, this cold is going to kill me. So, in terms of spreading through the city, Leeds have now murals absolutely everywhere. There's training days where the club will go out and visit like summer schools and stuff like that. There was one at my old primary school, Gilderson, recently, where a couple of players went and visited and sort of talked to the kids and helped to sort of grow the feeling of the club outwards. And that is a significant part of the club's motto, which is a lot of the time side before self. It might not be the official motto, but it's been taken as an unofficial one anyway. And it effectively means that no matter who you are, no matter what you personally stand for, when you're in that context, the side comes first. You do things that help the whole rather than just yourself. And I think that's more than just a message for football fans. I think that's just generally a really, really good vibe to have in terms of supporting the people around you and that sort of thing. In terms of Leeds, I think there's a really, really strong football culture. It's connected to the club. Even down in League One, there was a core fan base that stuck with them and were often just priced out of watching matches by Ken Bates raising the ticket prices. But the culture stayed. The connection with history remained. They forged their own history at that point, even in League One, which to a lot of clubs will mean absolutely nothing. But because there's that attention paid to history, it matters to fans even now. Jermaine Beckford is still a hero. Luciano Becchio is still a hero. And there's a slight difference with the second city that I'm talking about here, which is Manchester. Now, two clubs in Manchester, and that could be important. I will get to that. And the first issue that Manchester has, I think, in terms of having that solid club culture, is that it's a bit dispersed and fans are rather short term. And by that, I mean when the club doesn't have a lot of success, there's a potential drop off in the number of fans. That hasn't been an issue for Manchester City, but I feel like that is purely because Pep Guardiola has been hit after hit after hit after hit. There's been the occasional hiccup of a transfer, but that doesn't affect the side's success. Manchester United, however, have lost a fair few fans internationally because of this, because if you're living in Thailand, for example, and you want to watch your football club play, if they keep on losing, you're going to lose attention fairly quickly or switch to another side. the sort of glory supporting element does not help the club culture in the slightest. And if anything, it introduces a sort of toxic element. You can see that on like Manchester United Twitter and stuff. There's always arguments and abuse being flung from one side to the other that is just sort of nasty, and it doesn't help a club continue to grow. In addition to that side of the club falling into disrepute and losing significant like sides of it, facilities fall into disrepute as well. It's like there's not that much of an investment from the culture into the club, so why would the owners do the same? And that's where I think being owned by the Glazers in the case of Manchester United has been a serious issue. This again isn't a problem for Man City because they have owners that are willing to shell money into the club in order to build it up over time. But Manchester United Stadium, which is the second or third biggest stadium in the UK, I can't quite remember, hasn't been picked for Euro 2028, and that is surely a little bit of an embarrassment for a club where they think they're one of the biggest in the world at the moment, and that's also going to really harm the culture. There's a sense of lack of pride in Manchester United where they might be winning trophies, but fans don't seem proud of that. Whereas contrasting to the Leeds example previously, even in the Championship, I think fans are proud at the moment because there's clear signs of something building, there's signs of a project, there's signs of progress where that just doesn't exist in Manchester. And severe internal strife is another big issue where club employees internally argue with one another constantly, and it just harms the club. I feel like Manchester United isn't the best example for positive club culture, and that's why I've gone to them, because it's the idea of club culture is such an alien concept that is really hard to put your finger on, and I had to pick sort of extreme examples on both sides. I feel like Leeds have a strong one. I feel like Manchester United have a fairly weak one at the moment, but that's because of their worldwide fan base, which feels incredibly loose and self-hating in a way. So towards the end of last season, Leeds fans under Jesse Marsh were quite annoyed because the football's crap. But that was part of supporting the institution and not the employees. You can point out when the employees are bad because they are, but there wasn't any turning on Leeds as a club. It was purely on ownership, it was on director of football, manager, players. But as a club, everyone was like, no, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to sing songs from a decade ago because that's when we were good and that's why I enjoyed things. So ultimately, what does club culture mean in terms of what do you get out of it? And I think the perfect way to sum it up is it's not going to win you trophies necessarily. I mean, there's the case of Liverpool where they might attract players because they've heard that it's a big club and the fans love it and there's a big culture around it, and that's cool. But I feel like it's a sense of fulfillment that you get more than anything when it comes to having a strong club culture that binds people together. Football isn't necessarily about winning every single match. If it was, everyone would despise football and not watch it in the slightest. Football should be about you have something to watch and feel like you're a part of something bigger, no matter who you support, because every club has its own little culture building up. And I really love that. And I admit that this video is sort of rambling and it doesn't specifically have a point. But I think the point is that if you support a club casually, try and dive into that culture. Because I was in a similar position where I didn't like connect with Leeds that much. And then I dived in, and now here I am feeling absolutely fulfilled by being a part of that culture. This has been a very rambly video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If anything, give me your best example of being surrounded by the culture of your club, because I always find that really fascinating. Like the video if you enjoyed, subscribe, and I will see you later.